Welcome everyone. It's Jess here from Practice Dynamics. Thank you all very much for joining so promptly. We've clicked over to 2 o'clock. Don't know about you guys, but today has been going by very, very quickly. And we are all going to spend the next hour together to run through the third installment of our XPLAN Success Summit. And today is all about opportunities management. Now, I have turned on my camera just so I could say hello to all of you, but I don't want that to get in the way of the recording or on your screen, so I'm going to stop my video, but I just wanted to pop in and say hi to you all. We're also today joined by Matthew Townsend from Iris. He's going to be listening along to the presentation. He'll be available to answer any of your questions. But in particular, we've got a very special Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. So opportunities management, as exciting as it is and as really good in functionality as it is, I'm going to try and do it in about 40 minutes, giving you guys plenty of time to ask your questions to Matthew Townsend. He is makes lots of big decisions in the XPLAN world around task management. Your task hub is his baby, and opportunities, and he is loving all the feedback that people are giving him. So this is your opportunity to provide feedback and also ask questions. But first, we want to have a look at the opportunities management area. So I can see a good chunk of people have joined so far, so that's really good. Thank you so much for being so prompt. So I am hopefully going to kick us off with a bit of a poll. Hopefully I can launch that now. Well, all right, so I've launched a bit of a poll to get you to answer 3 very simple questions. The questions are just going to be around whether or not you've seen the opportunities before, whether you've used the opportunities before, and if you have used the opportunities, what is your enjoyability of the opportunities area. So a couple of you have started off. Oh, good, we're all kicking in. A good number of you have used it or seen it before. About half of you have used it before, and we're on even numbers in terms of enjoyment level. So people that maybe perhaps haven't seen it before, a bit harder to answer on your enjoyment level. But I've got a couple more people that haven't yet voted. Please vote away. Good chunk of you have seen opportunities, which is great. The purpose of today is to kind of look at it with a kind of case study approach. So not necessarily a training on opportunities, but certainly you will learn opportunities as we go through. And again, 50-50 on using it, and enjoyability scaling at about the middle of the road. So a couple at the 99% though, that's really good. Thank you all very much for participating in the poll. I'm going to end that now, and I'll just share those results, hopefully that you can see them there. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the results. All right, back to the presentation. So what we're going to go through today, as with what we've done with all of our Success Summit webinars, we're looking at when would you use this functionality, how do you use the functionality, and why you use the functionality. So really addressing it in those 3 key categories. And so when we're looking at the when, how, and why, we need to understand what is the purpose of opportunities, so that you can make sure you get the most out of the tool. And we're also going to look at ways that you can actually use it in your business today. We're going to do a bit of case study, we're going to jump into opportunities, and we're going to have a look around. So what is it? It's a really good question. For those of you that have seen it or are using it now, hopefully that means you're using it for lead generation, new business management, new revenue management, so tracking those revenue opportunities, linking through your opportunities board to your workflow. So as you're doing your workflow process, it's updating the opportunity area for you. And it's a real visual tool to kind of see your opportunities, but it also has reporting features. So it is primarily used by the financial planner or the operations manager in a business. But as any user of XPLAN, you kind of want to know what it does and how it works, even if perhaps you're not doing the day-to-day maintenance of the opportunity area. And I can see, looking at our list of attendees, we've got a good cross section of financial planners and their sort of head paraplanner and head support team. So welcome you all. So in a nutshell, we're going to look at opportunities as a way to manage either a new client or an existing client, an opportunity in your business for revenue. So that would be potentially running them through from the kind of the new phase of a prospect client, taking them all the way through the fact-finding journey, the SOA production journey, SOA presentation journey, implementation, and so all those phases from prospect to implementation. It allows you to kind of track the activity using file notes, XPLAN tasks, appointments, emails that have been sent out to the client, and it really hones in on the specifics of that opportunity. Now, that becomes really important if you're going to look at an existing client opportunity and you don't have to get lost in the weeds of all of the past activity on that client, and you can focus just on the activity you're doing for that particular opportunity. It's a great tool for tracking revenue and expected FUM. And we're going to spend a little bit of time together today to run through how you can manage your revenue at a glance and find your bottlenecks. The other thing you can do is you can set due dates for your opportunity. So you can track if any opportunities become overdue and you haven't perhaps met your deadlines. And importantly, it helps you manage your workflow as well. Or in the reverse, your workflow actually helps you manage your opportunity. And we're also going to touch on that today in some detail. So the first things first, creating an opportunity on XPLAN, it's done, we call them opportunity cards. You've probably seen in the task session that we did, task hub, you've got task cards. We're going to have opportunity cards. One thing to note, and it's important to note, that if you do create a client to create the opportunity all in one go, it is going to set your entity status to be a prospect. Okay. So there's different ways that you can go about creating your opportunity, create the client first or create the opportunity first. And look, we're a bit 50-50 here in the office. Sometimes the client comes before the opportunity and sometimes the opportunity comes with the client. So I'm going to show you a really quick way of getting your client into XPLAN utilizing the opportunity area. So I'm going to flick over to my XPLAN site here. I'm already set up, ready to go in the opportunities view. So for those of you that haven't seen it before, this is what we're looking at. If you do want to know how I got there though, we click the top icon, the hubs icon. Hopefully, come on, XPLAN. And then we're going to go to opportunities here. Okay, so very, very quick and easy to get to your opportunity board. And as you can see, we've got our little opportunity cards that show me my clients and the opportunities and the phase that they're in. So I might be taking a call from the young Joe Smith. Joe Smith is interested in coming in and having a chat about financial planning. He's a wealth accumulator. Great. Joe Smith, you're an excellent candidate. Let's get you set up. So I'm going to go and add an opportunity. I can either search for an existing client. So if Joe Smith's contacted our office before, that's there. But I want to set Joe Smith up from the start. Now you'll notice my client type says company. That's because personally, most people call me from a company and I'm going to have a relationship with a company. So I've already set up my preferences that when I create a new client, company is the automatic defaulting type. Not probably appropriate as a financial planning business. In most cases, you're probably dealing with individuals. So you're going to want to make sure that individual is the one that's the client type, and that is the XPLAN default. So you're not going to have to worry about changing that. Only it's the other way around, like me. If your clients technically referred clients or clients that call you up, your relationships with a company or a super fund, set it as your default. We're going to show you how to do that later today. So here is Joe Smith. I'm going to add him to XPLAN, putting in his first name, his surname. And we're going to also allow us to, I'm just not going to use those two, put in an email address. So joesmith@gmail.com and his phone number also being added. Now I'm going to make that a mobile phone. So just putting in the changes here allows you to ensure that your types are correct, and that's going to feed through into XPLAN quite nicely. Now, Joe, I've spoken to Joe for a little bit. I understand that Joe's got about $300,000 in his super fund. Probably likely to want to look at pulling that into our funds under management. Typical client like Joe, we charge them about $5,000 for an SOA and about $11,000 a year. So I can pop in my expected revenue straight away. We know that the advice type is likely new because we're creating a new client. We can also set up some advice objectives. So I can go in here and say, this client is interested in investment advice, insurance advice, and some debt management. Where am I going to pop him? He's in the prospecting phase. We'll talk about stages a little bit in terms of maintenance of your dashboard of your opportunity. But for me, we start off in the prospecting phase. I'm not going to set him as a platinum. I'm actually going to set him as a prospect client assigned to me as the advisor. And typically we like to get our clients from fact finding and prospecting through to SOA implementation in about 30 business days. Okay, so about 6 weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and create this opportunity. So what that's done is it's gone in and it's creating the client. It's popping the details in that I've entered about Joe Smith, and it's created the opportunity in one go. So incredibly fast. While you're on the phone, get down some basic information and create your opportunity, and your opportunity is already ready to go. Now, that all sounds really good. And hopefully you've like tick, yep, love that. We want to use that in our business. However, now we're at this stage, we've created the opportunity. Here it is, Joe Smith. I have no future plans at this point in time. It hasn't kicked off anything special for me. We do love special automation functionality in XPLAN, and Opportunities has that functionality available. So in fact, in your opportunity, you can create automatic workflow. Your automatic workflow can be set up as a default. So for all new clients, I want this workflow to be kicked off, or for all existing clients, I want that workflow to be kicked off. Or if you have different journeys per type of client, like you might have a new client investment journey, a new client insurance journey, we can't have one size fits all for new clients. So you can create them as templates so that you can pick your new client journey through a template area. The other cool thing about linking your workflow case through to your opportunity is that you can actually move your opportunities phases through completing tasks. So you complete the fact-finding task, it can move your opportunity along without you having to do it manually. So how do you go about setting up a new client opportunity to work through a workflow process? Well, the good thing is we've done this session after we've done our threads and cases session from last week. So the first thing you're going to want to do is have your workflow created. So under the templates area, under our threads and templates and our case templates, we're going to need to have a thread created within our case model. So I think I'm just going to make sure I've got one. Where's my opportunity one? Oh, I might not have called it opportunities. That's not ideal. Bear with me, guys. Opportunity test one. Okay. Interesting. All right. It looks like the the thread that I built originally when I tested this, and the one I wanted to show you, is actually a thread, not a case. So I would absolutely tell every one of you, and you know this from my last session, create all of your workflow as cases going forward, not as threads anymore. However, if you've got one that's a thread, you can still link it to a case. And here is my opportunities thread that I've built here. And one of the things I want to show you is in my outcomes, we can update an opportunity. All right, so part of my outcome is to push opportunities. Now, a normal workflow process is likely going to have more than one task. So we're going to have 3 or 4, maybe 5, maybe 15 tasks as you work through your workflow. On the tasks where they kind of finish in one column and start another column, you can update the stage of your opportunity. So in this particular example, I have moved my opportunity or moving my opportunity into the needs analysis phase at the end of this task 1. So what that looks like is when I add my opportunity, if I've set them up as the default, this section here, new and ongoing, will dictate that that case will get kicked off. All right, so by setting them up as the default, as we mentioned over here, set them up for default, 1 for new client, 1 for existing client. All you have to do is pick which client type it is, and it will kick off that case automatically. It's going to create the opportunity and the workflow case all in one go. The alternative to that, where you want to create your own workflow processes and pick which workflow you want to run through, you link them as a template. And then when you're adding your opportunity, you're selecting a template here. So how did I get them? You would have seen a little sneak peek as I tried to work through locating my case. I did it through the templates area. Templates are controlled by the cog icon here in the top right-hand corner, and then templates. So we've got a few templates set up by different team members. My login, I can start to see other things. System administrator rights. In your login, you will just see yours and your team's processes, okay? So don't be put off by other names on my screen. If I want to add a template, I'm going to give it a name. This might be the new client super and investment process. I can set up things like when it's a new client, I always want it to go to fact finding. I want it to go to my team member, Jo, because she does the new client process. A typical process is to have it done, as I mentioned before, in 30 business days. And I want to make sure that every time that I use this template, I will kick off this thread or kick off this thread. So as I said, the case templates are my preference. So most of you will hopefully have built them and you will link them this way and you'll link them through your onboarding new client process. However, if you have got them in the old world of threads, you can still link them as threads instead. All right. And always share it with your team. Up to you whether or not other people can edit your template, but you want to make sure that you're sharing it with everyone in your office so that they can also take advantage of this template that you've set up. All right, so very, very simple. So I've set up this new client super and investment template. And now if I want to allocate that to my client, all I need to do is select that template. And if I want to go back to Joe Smith, typing in correctly, I can set up the Joe Smith one that I just created. That will kick off an opportunity and link that amazing new client workflow case thread that I have built. That new client thread, therefore, as I do task 1, can push the client along in the journey. And rather than me having to pick up the card and move it along, which to be fair is very simple and doesn't take a lot of effort, but why do it if the task can do it for you? So on completion of a task, it can pick it up and move it across, and you've got your process automating in the background and your opportunity board automating for you automatically. Now, while we're at this stage, please also remember that we do have that Q&A. You are welcome to pop in your questions as we go. If it's something I'll be addressing in a later slide, I'll let you know. If not, I can stop and address the question. So please, this is an interactive session. That's why you come along to a webinar. So you can ask questions as you go to really hone in on any additional information that you might need. And of course, we've got the fabulous Matt Townsend also. He might be able to jump in. He'll be able to give you some insights from his side as well. All right, so there's our example of creating the workflow with your opportunity. And I can't stress enough how cool it is that you can move your opportunity through your tasks. So when it comes to the opportunity area, we love to keep everyone informed. So I mentioned early on, this is a advisor-facing one. I'm going to get that anonymous person. You're going to we're going to answer that question. And I'm actually going to get Matt to answer that one. But thank you for your question, anonymous attendee. I love it. The question that's come in for everybody's benefit, I'm getting a good chuckle on this side, is can you add a free text field to the opportunity so you can see it on the board? What is this opportunity about? It's a question we are also kind of seeking internally, and we get that question all the time. If you look at my board here, you can see some really informative things about our opportunity card, who the client is, what their rank is in terms of category. And you do have some data points, like this one's debt protection and investment, really good, but there isn't a sort of a one data entry point where you can put your own context in. At the moment, we typically like a pinned activity note. So what we typically do here is it's like advice info or opportunity info, and we'll pop in, new clients seeking advice on parents going into aged home, going into aged care. Okay, so a bit more information than we're going to be able to get from this level. And so we'll add our quick note, jumped ahead into my quick nav, and then we'll pin it to the top. Okay. Pin that activity. So what that means is every time I go into my opportunity, even though I can't see it on my card, it will always be the first thing on my screen. So that's how personally we deal with it. Now, Matt, I know you and I have had a conversation in the past about this. Do you want to give a bit of insights from your perspective?
Yeah, really cool question. And we see a lot of clients doing what you've done there with the pin. So at this stage, look, we are seeing more feedback around having a description there. We might share a bit of information towards the end about where workflow is heading in the future, and that would probably be something we look to include at that time. So unfortunately, nothing in the short term. I'd recommend going with the approach Jess has just outlined if you do need that detail, but sort of watch this space.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Matt. And yes, Matt's going to give us a great update at the end as well. So we'll keep kicking it along to make sure we have lots of time for questions with Matt. We talked on this slide here around the quick view and keeping everyone informed. And as you saw there, I made a quick file note and I was able to pin it. So down here, similar to your client hub, if you've got that turned on, you can do quick activity that is specific to this workflow opportunity. So a file note, you can add an appointment in your diary, you can set a task. So Joe Smith, I want one of my team members to actually reach out to Joe and maybe get some more information. So info session. So I'm doing that as my subject. I'm going to assign it to my colleague, Ashley. And I'll put in all of the details that Ashley needs to know about that. Set a due date for Tuesday, and I will create that quick task. And that allows us to keep this kind of activity, all the things that we've done within that opportunity here on the all. But if I want to look at just tasks, I can look at just the task view. If I want to look at just file notes, I can look at just file notes. The emails, really good. So I love this area. The history kind of tells you which stages, when they moved, love all of that. Great info in sections here inside your opportunity to really drill down on what it is you're doing. Keep in mind, just like the client hub, if you want to write a file note, perhaps with a file note template, or you want to set up a task with a task template, you have the full task, full note, full email feature, allowing you to jump in and load up a template. So all of that is still available within the opportunity, and the auto linking is really good, links back directly to this opportunity. Now, let's say you did some activity outside of your opportunity, which happens, and you might be filing an email to XPLAN through the File to XPLAN feature. You might go in and create a diary for your event for your client. I'm going to click on the client to take me in there, write a file note. So I completely forgot about my opportunity, and I've gone into the file notes area and I've added my file note. I'm going to go in and load up a template, doing all the things I normally do, but in the back of my mind, haven't done the right thing in terms of linking it. Save and close. Oh, I want to link it to my opportunity. Well, the good news is you can. So for all of your file notes, diary events, and your task, you can jump in and link them. So here's my workflow, here's my opportunity. I'm going to link it there, save and close. When I go back to my opportunity board, which I'm going to go back to on this tab, here's my Joe Smith client that I've created, and here's my file note template that I've loaded up. If you want to do it for tasks, all right, perfectly fine to do it for tasks. You just need to do it in the classic view. So best to try and create your task as much as possible from the opportunity itself, because it's going to mean it's a lot better. Just going to grab one and create it. So if I haven't done this task, but I haven't assigned it back to my opportunity, I'm going to edit in classic view. And then I'm going to come down and change it and link it back to my case here. All right, so you absolutely can, but it auto links much better from opportunities. And then lastly with diary, which probably only about 50% of you on this webinar today is probably using the diary. If you're not, we love diary. So, let's revisit it together if you want. But if you aren't using the diary, definitely consider it. And if you are using the diary, you just link it here under the case. So really simple ways to link it back. And the benefit of doing that is to ensure that all of your activity is linked to your opportunity. The advisor can go in and see what's happening with the client and keeping on track, especially tasks. How many tasks are outstanding? You'll see it sits here on the info board. So it's great to see, this has got, if you get 15 tasks outstanding, there's something wrong. You're going to want to address that. So link back to your opportunity. If you don't do it by the opportunity, certainly do it after the fact. All right, managing your funds under management and expected revenue. So it is important, and one of the key components of the opportunities board is allowing you to track your expected revenue coming in from new business. It's a great feature available through the opportunities board. So we want you to make sure you're taking advantage of that. So you'll notice each row has a initial revenue sum, an ongoing revenue sum, and a funds under management sum. So you'll be able to see that at a glance, and you can plan for your future revenue. You can also understand any bottlenecks in your process. For example, on mine at paraplanning phase, I've got about $3.8 million in FUM stuck at paraplanning. So I might want to look at that and go, we need to start moving some of that expected FUM across through the pipeline. Let me jump in and look at which SOAs are close to being finished, put a bit of pressure on the paraplanner, maybe even go in and book those meetings if I haven't yet done it. So you'll see here, these headings will help you. Then you come down and you can go, all right, well, that's the one I want to get. I want to get my $3 million client. So I'll jump into that opportunity, have a look through my notes and go, all right, yep, definitely need to have a meeting with her. So I might go in and send an email to say, hey, let's go book a meeting now. And then I might send a task off to the paraplanner and say, you need to complete this SOA by Friday. So the opportunity helps you kind of track your bottlenecks. And then once that SOA has been presented, you'll move it across and you'll start seeing that, your FUM's updating as you move it along in the pipeline. Those headings are updated. Oh, that went backwards. Let's go forwards. Reporting tools. So XPLAN is a visual tool, but reporting is still possible. Export is your best friend here in terms of reporting for opportunities data. And all you need to do is include the opportunities data source. So an example of when you might use your export report, maybe for your team meetings to run through your pipeline. Now, I mentioned it's a visual report. We use it in-house in our team meetings visually. All right, we have got all our opportunities in the phases, and we work through with our each other and talk in terms of what's coming up this week, who do we need to target, who do we need to get an update from, who do we need to contact. So visually, we do it through a visual, but we know that some of you might not like the visuals or might have the opportunity. You might be sitting around a table as opposed to sitting on Zoom. So if you need more of a printout kind of view, then it's export. So export, if you've never used export before, we've got some great training around the export tool, but I'm going to show you your data sources and some examples of the opportunities. reporting that we've built. Where's one that we've built? I think this one here up here is probably the best. Sitting at number 1. All right, so we're going to have 2 data sources in our opportunity export. The first one being client, so we can pull through the client name, their date of birth if we wanted to, their client advisor, maybe their activation date, that sort of information. We can pull from that data source. And then we have the opportunities data source, and we can see down here our opportunity output. So the name of the opportunity, the status, the stage, who it's assigned to, what's the due date, when was it last modified, when was it created? What is our revenue amounts? What is the outcome? So we've got different outcomes I'm going to talk about in a moment, comments, and then a completed date if it has finished. So you've got a little blue cog that also allows you to start controlling things about your opportunity. So we use a 52-week rolling date. So the last 52 weeks to today. That's quite a big range. It looks at a year's worth of opportunities. If you're on a 6-week to 8-week cycle, you might change it to 10. So you can have a look at, filtering out, filtering down your opportunities. Some groups do it based on, opportunity types. So they only want to have no outcomes. So they don't want it to be lost, aborted, or success, just the ones that are open, essentially. So you can also do that through an outcome type. So opportunity reporting, really, really functional through export. Keep in mind that if you are building your export report, you will need to run it from, you can run it from a client search result, but you can also schedule it here. So if you want to have that report come to your inbox, and you might want that, an hour before your team meeting, you can schedule your export report and it can be sent to you either through the bell notification or directly into your inbox. All right, managing your opportunity board on a day-to-day basis. And look, you might look at it daily, you might look at it weekly, you might look at it hourly. It's up to you and your role. However, for advisors in the room, if you are looking at your opportunity board more than once a day, or even if it is the first thing you look at the start of your day, we do recommend that you create it as your homepage. So for those of you that came along to Task Hub, you know that my Task Hub is my daily page, but I'm on the cusp of moving it to opportunities. It's really up to you what your starting page is. So start after login, and you can make Opportunities Hub your first page. Very, very simple. Still loving Task Hub too much. I'm personally not going to move away from it. But for the advisor in the room, I can imagine Opportunities Hub might be your go-to. And that's where you're going to change it, and you're going to hit save to make that change. Now, once you're inside your opportunity area, we want to look at moving the cards and using the filters. So I've already shown you how to move a card, super simple. Your workflow can do it for you. That's the kind of functionality you want. However, we want to drill down. We've got a meeting with our referral partner, XYZ ABC. And XYZ ABC is a really good referrer, and they want to know where we're at with the referrals they've sent us. So we are going to come in and have a look at a referrer filter. So we're going to go filter by referrer. And I can then see my ABC XYZ referrer, and I can view their opportunities really, really quickly. So by filtering by referrer, anyone without a referrer is going to be excluded from my results screen. Put that back in. Now, the other thing that I might want to look at is what is my new client pipeline looking like, and what is my ongoing client pipeline? So I might change this to new. All right, we've only got one in paraplanning. We're kind of in the fact-finding phase. We need to push them along. How about my ongoing clients? All right, great. We're at proposal stage here. We're at needs analysis stage here. So these filters are available to you to help drill down your board. Personally, we look at an all opportunities. I'm not going to turn that on because we do have privacy issues, but under an all opportunities, you also get the ability to look at more than one user. So I can look at tasks assigned to me and another user, or assigned to my group. So my opportunities group, being practice dynamics, you might have multiple business units. You might be looking at business unit A and their opportunities, business unit B and their opportunities. So under the all opportunities, you do get a couple of extra features. Due dates, what's overdue? Oh, I got a few. So any overdue ones, that's when you want to start addressing those. What's due in the next 90 days? Let's have a look at those. What's due this week? Let's look at those. So start to play around with these filters, really, really fun. Now, in terms of the columns that you see here, the columns are personalizable, if that's a word, per site. So for each XPLAN site, you can control the number of columns that are available and what those column wordings are. So let's say you had 50 across a site. If you're on a managed site, maybe there's quite a few columns and you don't want to use all of them. The good news is you can turn them off. So you're going to make this cog here your friend. This is your settings area. We recommend that if you're using opportunities, you absolutely jump into the preferences area and you set up your preferences. This is where I have set up that a client that gets added is getting added as a platinum client, that the stage they get added to is proposal stage, that I want these columns turned on. Now, if I don't want to look at the review column, I just untick it, save, and my review column has disappeared. So these hold once you've hit save for every time you go into your opportunity. So these are your preferences. You can set up group preferences if you need to, depends on your capabilities. And these are your templates. Site settings you won't have access to, only site administrators do. But if you are the site administrator on your XPLAN site, you might see site settings, which will override everyone across the board. And here is your own personal ones. These are the ones everyone in the webinar should focus on and ensure that these are set up correctly. All right. All right, so actually I'm going to change that to monthly because we do ongoing revenue on a monthly basis in most cases. That's going to save me a little bit of time. Now I have turned off, and you'll notice here my closed converted and closed lost. I've done that on purpose just because of, again, privacy reasons, but these two are quite common to be left on and give you a nice overview of your data. And that's going to feed nicely, hopefully, into the next one. When does your opportunity end? We have this conversation again in-house quite a lot around moving opportunities, making them success, lost, or aborted. So what you'll notice is you can move it across to completed, but doesn't actually end the opportunity. To end an opportunity, you need to set an outcome: success, lost, or aborted. Keep in mind these cannot be undone. So if you do mark it as success, it's locked in. If you mark it as lost, it's locked in. So make sure you only select this outcome at the very, very end. So our motto is success if you've completed the opportunity and converted the client. It's lost if you have failed to convert that opportunity. Mark abort if you've activated an opportunity incorrectly. Then you abort it. But in most cases, it will be success or lost. So once you've marked that, then you can basically closes the opportunity down. So if I go into Eva as my client, just had another question come through, so we're going to address that one in just a moment. And we have a look at the opportunities board. At the client's level, you will see any aborted opportunities, completed opportunities, etc. All right, so you'll start seeing that success push through into a history against the client. Now, I've got a great question that's come through. Is it possible to rename the columns or hide some of them? So when we have a look back at our opportunity board, and this is maybe one that, Matt, if you want to touch on later around this particular item, at the moment, you can rename it at a site level. Okay, so for every XPLAN site, they set up what the naming convention is of each of these columns and how many columns you have access to. So your site administrator will do that. In terms of hiding them, that's where your stage columns tick boxes come into play. And you'll be able to turn them on and off. Another question, which again is probably one more for Matt, but the question has come in around, can these outcomes be edited in the future? Sometimes a success changes their mind and cannot be changed. So I think that they're referring to there, and hopefully I've got that right, is the outcome. So once you've marked an outcome, you can't change it. So lost, can't come back in. You've got to restart an opportunity, aborted, success, etc. So Matt, I don't know if you want to touch on that now or later. Is there any sort of looking into whether or not that could be undone?
Yeah, well, I don't want to contradict you, Jess, but I'm pretty sure while you can't undo it, you can change them between success and lost if
Okay.
need. Yeah.
But you can't move it outside in terms of not either of those.
That's right. So you do have to be sure once it's done, it's done. But yeah, if you make a mistake, you can reverse that.
Okay, perfect. Good. So let's say this one here, which was aborted previously, you're saying we can change it, not for aborted, unless I'm doing it in the wrong spot.
No, just like cases, same. So yeah, opportunities adopts a lot of the same functionality as cases. And so once you abort a case, it's all over Red Rover because a bunch of stuff happens in the background of that. So that one could be something we look at in the future.
Okay.
Seeing too much demand for it. But yeah, you do have that flexibility around the success and loss.
Okay, so here's one that I've just marked as success. I'm going to see that come through in the completed opportunity. So in theory, I should now be able to go in and change that to lost. So yes, you can switch between the two. Great. Excellent. So yes, locked in terms of you have to have an outcome once you've selected one, but lost and success can change. So if you go to lost, you can switch them back to success, which is probably the most common, as opposed to the other way around, but certainly could be, lost if they get to implementation phase and then go, oh, no, actually, we're not going to implement. You would change it to lost. You'd say not implementing and save away. And again, that's going to feed through into your reporting. So those outcomes of your success, lost, aborted, you've got those comments so that you can see the reasons why they've been lost or successful, and that can come out in your export reports. So this one now is moved to lost. Thanks for that, Matt. Having a time. Oh, we're just over the 40 minutes and I've completed the opportunities area. So thank you all very much for looking at opportunities with me and having a look at some of those key features and functionality of the opportunities area. Now is your chance to have a chat to Matt about all things tasks and opportunities. But before I sort of direct you to these questions, Matt, do you want to give a bit of an update on where you're at in terms of working through opportunities and tasks?
Yeah, certainly. So, well, firstly, too, congratulations, Jess. That was another awesome session. I think, for users who have been using tasks, cases, and opportunities a lot already, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some tips or things they picked up from this. And obviously, if you aren't using those things, great introduction to it. I think you and I have a passion for workflow, and that's effectively what these 3 sessions have covered, which is what I love, because we all know it's sort of like workflow is like a bit of a superhero in your business. It can do a lot of heavy lifting if it's set up right and has a lot of power. But yes, potentially getting all that value out of it and efficiency can be a challenge. So look, for us, it's no secret that the Task Hub has been our focus, but increasingly, as more clients have taken up opportunities, but also really once you start working with tasks and start thinking even things like checklists, what we find is clients, as they start to take up checklists, are like, well, hold on, actually now maybe I don't need as many tasks and things like this. So it all gets you thinking about workflow, basically new processes. And so we are seeing an increase of questions we're getting around, well, tasks is great, or on the right track. What's next for workflow? What's next for these other areas? And even questions like, is cases still the right path? If we go down the hassle of taking this up, is that going to be the way forward? And same for opportunities. And so what we can say is, look, what you will probably find is the next lab's early access. And so it's still away yet. No announcements on that today. But it's very likely that the next lab's initiative will be around workflow. And the vision we've got for that is actually building on the success we've had with tasks and opportunities. And that's basically, how can we don't want to make you do another layer of workflow. Okay, you guys have invested a lot of time, clients on this call, lots of clients out there, setting up your workflow. So how can we help you use what you've got and all the power that's in those different layers like benchmarks and threads and opportunities and bring it together in one experience? So that, and look, I think if we're successful at this, you won't even have to train your users on what a case or thread is. They're just going to have one area called workflow where they go in, but they've got all the power of those things from all the other areas. So you go into your workflow, maybe you've got a Kanban board there where you can see and a list view and other views where you can see all the processes in your business. And you've got that sort of information at your fingertips that we built in Task Hub. So you can see the tasks outstanding and you can action them right there and then. You can see your benchmarks that need doing, and you can link them, complete them, add tasks to this process or workflow right there and then. And then when you click into it to the details, just like you did for opportunities, we get a lot of good feedback around the activity feed. Maybe you still have the activity feed, but you've also got that ability to complete, link, and see your benchmarks for that process. You can click and see a workflow map instead of having to go back to the thread to find out where am I in this workflow and what comes next. No, you've got a modern visual way to see it. And you can manage your tasks from there. You can access all your comments, linked products, basically just one area to get all the power you need to do that workflow. And you don't even have to worry about then, if you've got benchmarks, why would you need to worry about going into cases? If you can see all your comments, attachments, time taken, product linking, and a map of the workflow, why would you need to go into threads? And likewise, you've got the activity feed and all the power of opportunities as well. So that's sort of our vision that we've been working towards. That's why you might be wondering, well, we're not seeing much of opportunities on the roadmap, Matt. Why is that? Effectively, that's because, look, the more we add to that today, the little bit harder that makes us to build that out in the future. But opportunities is still the way forward. Everything Jess has shown here, if you're using opportunities today, you are going to be in a great position to take up where we're heading in the future. Likewise, if you're using cases, you're going to find it's really easy, just like connecting to opportunities, to take advantage of that in the future. What I would say is, if a little bit similar to Jess, we still think Threads has a role to play. They do offer some great flexibility. If you are just using Threads today, you might want to look at perhaps using them with cases. And that's going to put you in a good position for where we're going in the future. But basically, yeah, cases, opportunities, you're on the right track. And look, we look forward to sharing a bit more information in the future. But yeah, we hope everyone, the clients we've teased this out with, we think that idea of just one place and removing that complexity of having to understand what opportunities, threads, and cases is really going to help unlock the value of workflow and also cement in best practice, which is something, Jess, you're fantastic at obviously working out what best practice is and helping clients, but look, it's not always easy for everyone. And so this will give us a really clear path that makes that very clear.
Perfect. It's exciting to me. I think, when can it come is the most important question. We're so eager, but I know that the work that you guys do and the way that you rolled out the Task Hub in those kind of phased approach worked really well. Are you thinking something similar where you'll build a good base for the workflow, what it's going to look like, and then potentially roll out in phases?
Yeah, look, we've seen that approach work really well as the ability to, I think something that worked well with Task Hub was we went deeper than we did. So with opportunities and Client Hub, we sort of rolled it out at a very early stage, and that was designed to get more feedback quickly. But look, what we found was there was probably too much of a gap between where it was and what users needed before they could really turn it on. And so with Task Hub, we went a lot further, and yeah, what we saw was quicker take up basically, because for small practices that didn't have sort of much complexity, they were able to get use out of it like that. And then as we added more filters and saving views and some of those things, we saw the bigger clients start to come on board as well. So we think that approach works well. The other thing I would say is something that we think's gone really well for tasks is you've got that ability to still go back to the classic, and you can get back to it really quickly. And so with the workflow changes as well, we're not going to be taking anything away. You'll have that ability to access cases still and all that stuff. So yeah, we think we're on the right track with how that rollout has gone, just based on the data and the feedback we get anyway.
Perfect. And all of that would be looking at including in Client Focus. We're not looking at needing to add on any extra modules.
No, definitely not.
That's good to hear. Guys, this is your chance to ask Matt that very important question. So if you do have any additional questions, they're coming through now. So can you see these questions as well, Matt?
I can, yes.
Excellent. So for everyone else, do you have any success stories for people who have transitioned to using opportunities already? Any tips or learnings?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, I actually think the biggest tip I could give. So we've got success stories from, we have large enterprise clients using opportunities, and they've rolled out extensive workflows and things like that. But we also have small IFAs who dip their toe into workflows, but also some who are just happy to use it without a workflow. And they use the drag and drop like what Jess highlighted, and they really like that. They add tasks in as they need to, but allows them to track their pipeline, in terms of how many have they won, how many have they lost. So it can work across the spectrum from simple to complex. The one thing I would say is where we've seen clients get stuck, so this might not be a success story, but I think it leads to helping you get successful. When clients start thinking about cases, I think they often get caught up in benchmarks. And so look, workflow is a big thing as it is. What I would say is don't be afraid to work sort of iteratively and just start with getting your workflow into the case environment and opportunities, and then adding the benchmarks if you need to. The other thing that you highlighted, Jess, was, it's interesting so in my mind, I'm just thinking how we could better promote it, but it's interesting the task outcomes and getting that automation. Some clients don't realize that they can actually, if they update their workflow as well, they can get the opportunities to move automatically for them. So those are probably the two biggest tips we see. Sorry, actually, I will add one more thing. One thing we have seen work really well is, so look, I know it might seem quite limiting, but we've actually had a lot of success with sites standardizing those stages across their site. So you showed us, and I think we had one or two questions around, how can I customize the stages of the opportunity? And look, originally we were going to build that out for groups, but we thought, well, we made the assumption we should have that customization there for groups, particularly for managed sites. We thought that might be a concern. We actually stopped that. Well, let's see the feedback. And what we found was actually quite interesting. Where sites were prompted to actually kind of think, well, hold on, do we actually want to, like if you're on a managed site or a site with multiple groups on it, how would that reporting work for you? How are you going to standardize your dashboards or produce really cool reporting if you've got 50 different stages? And are they really necessary when largely we're all kind of doing the same thing? Like, the wording might be a little bit different, but most advice practices follow a very similar, you've got to get to know the client, then you're preparing the advice, presenting it, implementation. Shout out to anyone who has to deal with implementation. I always think I always have flashbacks to my time as administrator dealing with that. And so, we've actually seen great success with clients sort of challenging themselves a little bit to try and standardize that. So look, as I said, that's just based on the feedback we hear and what we see, but those, probably a longer answer than what the anonymous person expected, but hopefully there was something in that. Would you, is that sort of aligned with some of the tips you see, Jess, or is there anything there you'd add to or disagree?
Look, the biggest success stories are around people kind of really focusing on columns. We do that internally as well in the groups that we're talking to. Even though you might have 10 columns that are available to you, pick the ones that you guys want to use, so that you can kind of understand where they're at, specifically group them together and go, there's, I think on Practice Dynamics, we've got fact finding and prospecting as two different columns. You probably don't need two columns. You're in that fact finding phase. The prospect, maybe you've sent a fact find, do you need to move them over? So I think that, sometimes it's good to have a few options. It doesn't mean you have to use them all. And also for site administrators out there, try not to create too many, because it will become a nightmare. If you have to scroll across an opportunities board, you're not going to use it. You want to see your columns on one screen. So having 15 columns is just not going to work at all. And then I love automation. So for me, it's like, get the workflow to push the opportunity is a key. Now I've got another question from Calypso here. So this is an interesting one, and you might need to confirm it. Will the capacity to have an in-app notification come? So i.e. the bell notification in the top right corner when tasks have been assigned, updated, comments added, etc. I'm guessing that's outside of the standard email notifications, which I personally don't love. And nice to know that a task has been assigned to you. I hate the overdue ones, delete, delete, delete. But I think there's an interesting concept there from Calypso around notifications or in-app sort of things that pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you can't get around it. Look, good notifications are an essential part of workflow. We found that in the research. At this stage, that is sort of the next phase after. We think, look, for us, we think what's going to provide the most value. And at the moment, we think having that modern foundation and bringing the workflow all into one is going to have big benefits for users. But then we see notifications as sort of that next phase to bring tasks and workflow together. So you can get all those updates and be informed when, your boss Jess has assigned you another workflow or task.
The
So
other
I
thing,
100% agree with the Eclipso. It is a little bit further down the track though at this stage.
excellent. And I think also for those that aren't aware, if you are using workflow, you can have your comments from one task open up on another task. So keep in mind there's that fantastic toggle that allows you to view what they call workflow comments. So I love comments now, probably wasn't a huge fan of it in the past. One thing for you, Matt, we are rightly or wrongly in-house doing more time management. So we're assigning time taken to our comments, which at the moment is still a classic view change, not a new view. That's personally, we'd love to see the ability to time your comments, but not a huge deal. I don't think there's a large number of us out there tracking time, but there's certainly the odd one. But comments is something we're using a lot more because we've moved to tasks. We love tasks. We want to comment up all the things that we're doing. We personally in-house, again, we've talked to a lot of advisors about having one task that maybe passes to more than one person. So reassigning tasks to another team member when you've done your bit so that you can have one nice task, one checklist moving. The comments is really good to be able to tell someone what you've done. But then from a workflow perspective, you've done all this work in your initial task. The person, when they're getting task number 2, they can go back and see your comments through that toggle. So I think, yeah, those comments features have been really well received. So well done on that. That's a good improvement.
No, look, I think that's a good use case you outline. Just on the time taken, look, you're right. From an analytics point of view, time taken is not widely used, but we think it's actually, it's probably not used because it's not a great implementation today. It's a little bit like recurring tasks. Recurring tasks aren't widely used today, but we think they've got a lot of value, and that could be an area we look at in the future. On time taken, though, I would expect you'll probably see in an update for Q3 or Q4, that's going to be introduced. Because even though it's not widely used, at the end of the day, you are using it multiple times a day. So we want you to only have to go back to classic tasks once a day or once a week when you need to. And so we want to try and get all the stuff you're using regularly in there. So yes, time taken will be coming.
Yeah. Do you think from a notification perspective, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, when someone assigns you a new task and it's coming to you for the first time, maybe going into your task hub, could you see it as like a bold, like it's an unread task in your task hub, like you do in your email? Is that kind of stuff that you're thinking as well?
Yeah, so that's an idea we've had from a couple of clients, and we've got it on our board. I don't know if it's going to make the cut, but we'll be discussing that soon. So that could be sort of an interim, before, we don't have the nice new notifications that we sort of want. Could that help in the meantime? So perhaps.
Perfect. And personally, another good shout out to you guys as well is that as you are making changes to the task hub area, I've noticed it the most that you're putting the little push notifications to let people know of a change. So is that still going to continue on as the best way for people to be identified, like to know about new features? You're going to keep putting those push notifications through?
Yeah, so we had some really good feedback on that. Seemed well received. We've actually, and so you'll probably see that again with the so right at the moment, the most common, so we had really good feedback for the list view, and I think people were relieved to see that. Some people just love the list view, and it's great for a whole range of circumstances. I'm a Kanban person myself, but look, you need the list sometimes, or personal preference. And so what we're working on at the moment is actually that ability to add advisor roles as columns. So, for example, the biggest bit of feedback we've had is, hey, let me see the advisor name as one of the columns in the list view. And so you'll be able to actually add those roles. And so for that one, we probably will use that push notification again. So it's not going to be for all of them. We don't want to spam you. But where we think maybe it's not obvious or you might not notice it, we'll use that.
Perfect. So guys, as you go into those areas, make sure you check out, if you see a push notification, make sure you read it. There's probably some really cool feature that it's nice to be aware of, that Matt and his team have been working through, and something that's hopefully going to help you in the future. So I'm very conscious of everyone's time, and we've kind of hit up the hour. Does anyone have any last minute questions for Matt? If not, Matt, I want to say thank you very much for joining in on our webinar today, and having you along has been incredibly powerful. But yeah, you want to...
Well, just one thing for you, Jess. I know you and a couple of other clients have asked me about this. I'm happy to let you know that at the moment, when you use opportunities and you're trying to work with tasks, you're still stuck in the classic view, aren't you? Yep. So hopefully
Yes.
next month or thereabouts, when using opportunities and interacting with tasks, you'll actually get the new experience. So yeah, more consistency, faster, easier, all that stuff. So I know a small one, but yeah,
Well,
hopefully
I didn't raise it when it happened during my presentation. It did go to the classic view, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to address that right at that point, but I did notice it. And for me personally, again, love the new view. So we want to make sure that when we're clicking into tasks by default, we're getting the new one, but we still have the option to go to classic for the things that we need it for, and steer clear of it. So again, things like notification, your time taken, your case connection, you're still going to want to look at your classic view. But for 99% of the things that you're doing, the new view is more visual, better, easier to manage, more intuitive. So, and we're certainly seeing that from the feedback we get as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Excellent. Well, everyone, thank you very much for coming along to today's webinar. We will be popping a copy of this recording up on XPLAN Expert. It'll also go on YouTube for those that aren't part of Practice Dynamics support. Thank you again, Matt, for coming along. Next month, we are going to be looking at all things file notes. So that's going to be a full-on hour of looking at file note functionality. A lot of new stuff has come in as well. So make sure you register for that. Register, email or the link to that will come out very, very soon. It's early in July, so you'll get that from me shortly. Thanks again, Matt. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.